Marie Scott lived during a time when racial and sexual violence were common experiences for black people. Her brief and tragic story exemplifies the countless stories of black women during the 1900s. This story begins on March 29, 1914, where an eyewitness states how Marie, 17 years old, was in her room combing her hair while two men observed her. The two men busted into her house and locked themselves in her room, where they began assaulting her. Her cries gained the attention of her brother, who was in the stable, and he came to her rescue. As he opened the door, he was beaten by the two white men and thrown out the door, but this did not deter him. He retrieved a knife and killed one of the men named Lemuel Peace. Within the next 2 days, there was a news article in the New York Times that declared Marie was the one to stab him and that Marie was taken from the Wagner County Jail by many masked men and hanged from a telephone pole.
Welcome. My name is Dr. David Ponton III. I'm an associate professor at the University of South Florida and the director for the Institute on Black Life. I am here with Zacaria Graddy, and today we want to talk a little bit about our Journey Towards Justice course and Zacaria's research. So, first, can you introduce yourself? What's your name? What's your major? What year are you in? Where are you from?
My name is Zacaria Graddy. I am a senior and I'm majoring in psychology. I'm from Lakeland, Florida.
Okay, Polk County. What are your interests, your academic interests?
I'm very interested in psychology since it is my major. And I have taken a few AFA courses like since I've been at USF, and I'm low-key kicking myself for not minoring in Africana studies, but it's okay. But I'm interested in sexuality as well, just anything to do with sexuality. I kind of like reading about it. I like reading about, honestly, the stuff we've learned and like the different prominent black figures that we've talked about. It's kind of fueled my interest in history again, so I love history as well.
Awesome. And we can see about that AFA minor. But so we are here because I'm one of the instructors, and Zacaria is one of the students in this Journey Towards Justice course that's running for the second time thanks to the funding of the Racial Justice Initiative. And part of this course includes a week-long trip to Alabama to visit the cities of Birmingham, Selma, and Montgomery to learn a bit more in depth about the civil rights movement. So, Zacaria, can you talk about your experience in the Journey Towards Justice class and what stood out to you in terms of the things that you learned?
The experience has been really eye-opening, and I really have enjoyed learning the stuff that I've learned. Like, even the hard stuff, I've really just taken it all in and just tried to find some joy in what we learned, because I feel like it's very important information that everybody needs to know. But what has stood out to me is how the sexual violence that black women have gone through or endured has been ignored. Like, that really stood out to me, because whenever we were assigned at the dark end of the
street,
yeah,
by
when we
Danielle
were assigned
McGuire,
that,
yeah.
I really thought about what she was saying, and I thought about like what I've learned from previous history classes, and I was like, wow, she's right. Like, we never talked about any of this. Like, I think I came across the Reese Taylor story like years ago on Hulu, and I like watched some of it, but I never finished it. And so the fact that we're talking about it and I like previously knew about it, it was interesting. So I just thought that since it hasn't been talked about, why not expound on it?
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Racy Taylor. What about her story has stuck with you? Why does it matter that we know about her?
I think it matters because she had the courage to speak out during a time where, honestly, she could have been killed for speaking out.
Yeah.
So I think that courage is something that should be acknowledged.
So Racy Taylor was a victim of sexual assault by several white men while she was trying to walk home from church. And it was during Jim Crow, and it was very unlikely that she was going to get anything like justice, and she didn't. But she still chose to speak out anyway. Like you said, that courage is astounding. And one of the main things that we learned is that there's a long history of Black women defying the rules and being willing to speak out about their experiences with sexual violence under dire circumstances. So I think for me, it also is a thing that sticks with me to know that this is an important part of civil rights history. It wasn't just, people tired of being segregated on a bus or not being able to attend a certain school. It was about bodily integrity. So this stood out to you, this topic of sexual assault and violence towards Black women and their courageous voices against it. And so you decided to research in this area. So tell me about your research experience. How did you start, and what kinds of obstacles did you run into along the way?
So I remember when we first, I can't remember when I brought the topic up to you, but I remember us picking up the film from the basement, going to the microfilm machine. That whole thing, I found interesting stuff, but it wasn't nothing that was close to my topic area. And I'm not even gonna lie, I went back the day after that to try and look for some more stuff, and whenever I would rewind the film all the way, the microfilm machine would do some weird stuff. It would not rewind perfectly. So I was just I ain't want to say, I ain't want it to be my fault that it was broke. So I kind of rewind the film myself and just you know what, I'm gonna just leave this here and I'm gonna just try and find something. I ended up looking on History Vault, and I found some NAACP papers that kind of showed the correspondence between this man named Chapman Brimsmaid. He was a lawyer around 1914 for the NAACP, and he was basically trying to get in touch with different people from different branches about the lynchings that happened in those areas. And he mentioned the name Marie Scott, and I was like, something something clicked a little bit, but he didn't really say much. He didn't say it was really didn't go into detail about it. So that next meeting when I brought it up to you, and you mentioned how.
Before we get there, let's back up to the moment where you said, what was it about? You see the name Marie Scott and you go, why? That
just made me realize that it just wasn't happening to men. It was happening to women as well.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what happens. So you went to microfilm, you're searching for a thing, and of course that's difficult. There's no Control F. You can't just find things easily. Then there's the mechanical things with the machine, so you have to be comfortable working with it. And it's just a grueling process. And so you went to ProQuest History Vault, where the Black Freedom Papers a lot of them have been digitized. And you found this record of lynching materials. And so you come to Marie Scott's name, you go, Black women were lynched too. That's something to think about. So then we met.
And I think you gave me some good material, the dissertation. I can't think of the name right now, but she kind of goes into depth about Marie's story, and I got prior knowledge from some newspaper clippings, but they didn't give me the full story. And she kind of basically said that Marie was a victim in this instance, and that she got punished even though she was the victim. And I really thought that was the case for many women during this time. They would get punished even though they were the victims. I just thought it was insane. These people were victims and they're being penalized.
So tell me the story of Marie Scott as we know it.
Marie Scott lived during a time when racial and sexual violence were common experiences for black people. Her brief and tragic story exemplifies the countless stories of enslaved black women during the 1900s. This story begins on March 29, 1914, where an eyewitness states how Marie, 17 years old, was in her room combing her hair while two men observed her. The two men busted into her house and locked themselves in her room, where they began assaulting her. Her cries gained the attention of her brother, who was in the stable, and he came to her rescue. As he opened the door, he was beaten by the two white men and thrown out the door, but this did not deter him. He retrieved a knife and killed one of the men named Lemuel Peace. Within the next 2 days, there was a news article in the New York Times that declared Marie was the one to stab him and that Marie was taken from the Wagner County Jail by many masked men and hanged from a telephone pole. These conflicting accounts of the circumstances result in skepticism about the true events, but there is a certainty that the actions done to Marie were unjust because she was not given the proper due process before her untimely death. Marie Scott's story illustrates how black women received punishment for their actions regardless of the extenuating circumstances, and how self-defense was their only mechanism for survival when the law provided them no protection.
Her story is one of many stories, and what you describe in terms of your research process is it was even difficult to kind of come across this one. And then in your description, it's also difficult to, ascertain everything that happened because it's very limited. We don't really ever get to hear her perspective. And we've talked a lot about, the role of history and historians and the different types of methods people use to try to, think about the folks who have been left absent from the archive. And Marie Scott is one of those people whose voices has definitely been left absent. You share a certain kind of positionality with her as a black woman in American society, dealing with all the things that you have to deal with. So I'm sure that there are parts of her story that resonate with you, but I'm also sure there are silences in the archive that are silent to other people, but there are things that you can hear. So if you had to imagine what Marie Scott had to say about her ordeal, what would you imagine she would say?
I would imagine she would say how traumatic this experience was for her. I honestly don't even, other than that, I really don't even know what else she would say, because they were getting traumatized every single day. So I feel like that's really only that she could say that would make sense.
What do you want people to take away from her story? Why does her story matter?
I feel like her story shouldn't be ignored. And so I've had personal experience with sexual assault, and having the feeling of you not being able to tell nobody it weighs on you. So I just feel like even though she's not here to tell her story, maybe I could tell it for her.